We're going to call this Board of Health meeting to order at 5:33. This meeting is being recorded. If everyone would please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from April 16th and May 21st.
Okay, we'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 16th.
I have a motion and I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from May 21st.
I have a motion and I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it passes. All right, meeting, mail, and new business.
The only meeting mail is actually the first agenda item.
Okay.
So,
All right. The PFAS discussion,
yeah,
do you want to discuss?
yeah. So the first item is to talk about a notice of release to groundwater for PFAS that we received from CMG Engineering. And the release is at the Fish Road soil importation site. So about a week and a half ago, we received a letter from CMG Engineering Services. And this is a required letter by DEP that once there's been contamination found on a site or in a well, the Board of Health needs to be notified. This was actually addressed to you as the chair lady. And I'll just paraphrase some of it. It says that there's been a phase 1 initial site investigation report submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection, and that it's now going to a Tier 2 classification, and that local officials interested in reviewing the phase 1 report or other Tier 2 classification documentation can download it or an electronic copy from EDEP online. I have a link for that, and I'd like to post that link on the Board of Health webpage, so that if anyone from the public wants to go look at any of this information, all they need to do is click on the link, and it's there. It's also, it provides the Board of Health with advance notice that this will also be an ad published in the Worcester Telegram. We verified that the ad was published in the Worcester Telegram. And then after that, going on and looking at the information, there was a release notification filed on January 9th of 2023 at 10:30 in the morning. And it says there was a release of hazardous material to the soil or groundwater exceeding reportable concentrations. It goes on to say that the oil or hazardous material released is PFAS 6. And it gives the concentration, but it's in parts per billion, not in parts per trillion. So it exceeds the parts per trillion. And that the groundwater status at that site is residential. So that would be considered RCGW1. So GW1 is for private properties, residential properties. GW2 gets into commercial properties, and GW3 gets into industrial. And normally when there's a release, you only have to clean up the groundwater to the level that's allowable for each groundwater designation. So if it's residential, you have to clean it up to residential standards. If it's industrial, you may only have to clean it up to industrial standards, but this is a residential standard. We got a rather large report that was the phase 1 initial site investigation report. That's from CMG as well. And it basically led to saying that there needs to be a phase 2 site investigation. And the conceptual, and you have that, this piece of paper is what the phase 2, I'm sorry the TV doesn't work, but it doesn't want to work. So the scope of work for the Phase 2 site investigation says that CMG, and they're the LSPs for this project, licensed site professionals, that they intend to conduct additional environmental assessment through collection of groundwater, soil, and potentially surface water and sediment samples for laboratory analysis for per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances, per PFAS, to further delineate the contamination attributable to the release, for release tracking number RTN 2-22286. And that number will be on the Board of Health website as well, because you'll need that to access the reports. It's now considered a disposal site. And this may require advancement of soil borings into the soil that's been brought into the site as part of the importation. With completion of some or all of these, as additional groundwater monitoring wells have to be installed as well. And it may also involve installation of piezometers in the wetlands. And piezometers measure the groundwater level and how they change. And that will help DEP in the project determine which way groundwater flows on the site, to know who's down gradient of the contamination and who's up gradient. They'll also collect PFAS samples from those as well. They talked about potential receptors. There's not a lot of detail for that. They give a schedule and a cost estimate. And they say that it's not possible to predict how much work would be necessary to complete the Phase 2 delineation of PFAS contamination attributable to the RTN, because there is an inherently iterative process. And this is also true for predicting what it would take to sufficiently evaluate likely PFAS sources in the property vicinity, as these are not yet identified. So basically, they will have to come up with a sampling plan, grid everything off, and decide if they're gonna take borings, every 3 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is. But they need to take representative samples of the soil. You just can't take one sample and say that represents 500,000 tons of dirt. It needs to work out to some logical, is it 500 cubic yards per sample? Is it 1,000? Is it 2,000? What is it? And that would be up to DEP and the LSP to work on and propose. They say that CMG opines that the first iterations, so the first round of sampling of additional environmental assessment, would cost on the order of $25,000 and would take about 3 to 6 months to complete. So the first part of this would take 3 to 6 months and possibly cost $25,000 for drilling and lab reports and things like that. The next part of this, and the reason we got that letter in the mail from CMG, is that DEP allows public involvement during cleanup of contaminated properties. And if 10 people sign a petition to request public involvement, DEP would have to, and the site operator and LSP would have to include the group of public participation in all of the information that's generated here, including us as the Board of Health. If you don't get involved in the public involvement side of this, whatever decisions they make, they will make. And if DEP approves it, it doesn't go through the Board of Health, it doesn't go through the public, no one gets to comment. And the other reason that we got that a notification from CMG is there's a time limit on when you can apply to have public participation. So that would have to be in the next 2 weeks to meet the time limit. I would suggest that the Board of Health write to DEP and say that the Board of Health wants to be involved in the public participation. And then if any residents come forward and want to be involved and get 10 people to sign that, there could be a citizens group of residents that are involved and get notified and have access to every document. We wouldn't have to read Facebook and get misinformation. Everybody could have the facts. And there are no responsible parties at this point. Everyone's just a potentially responsible party until they determine where the PFAS came from and where it's gone. And that's really all we have, at the moment. I do understand that DEP has stopped soil from going into the site. So the site is shut down. We don't have to worry about that. And there'll be studies coming up, and maybe based on what the studies reveal, the site may reopen and maybe it won't. And that's it.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I'm thinking still.
Same. Open it to the audience.
Probably, and then if
Do we have any? Anyone in the audience is welcome to come up. Mr. Zakowski, just make sure you state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Scott Zakowski, 8 Catherine Street. I'm also the current chair of the Water and Sewer Commission. I read the report, or some of the report. It's quite lengthy, and read through some of it. And the concern I have is that if it was from soil importation at that site down in West Dudley, is there any possibility that another site in town that was owned by the same parties, doing the same sort of business, could be equally as contaminated? And if that, I'm talking about over on Oxford Ave, there are private wells that are north of that site. Everybody south of the site is on town water, but all of our town water, 2/3 of our water supply wells are downstream from the Oxford Ave site. And that just raised a giant red flag. I don't know if there's anything within your process, or if that's something that we're going to have to get involved in and doing some testing up in that area.
And I think that's where the public participation would kick in, where once the site investigation starts at Fish Road, the public group could recommend to DEP that similar testing be done at if, say, PFAS is discovered in the soil at Fish Road.
Right.
That would lead one to believe that you may want to go to the next site and see if there's PFAS there. Because you have a PFAS treatment plant downstream from that facility.
Absolutely, open house on Saturday.
Yes. So that would make sense. But it would be important for the public participation part to take place.
Okay, I'll reach out then about if a petition is being started up
Yep.
to.
And maybe the water department would want to contact DEP themselves and notify the Board of Health that they as well would like to be involved in the notifications and process of what goes on there. That would be prudent.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, and there was one other thing I noticed on that. The initial release was in January of 2023. This is now June of 2024. That's a year and a half. What's...
Unfortunately, the site assessment process moves very slowly with the licensed site professionals. DEP used to do this themselves, but privatized that via licensed site professionals to free up DEP staff and budgets and so on and so forth. And they have timelines that they can take to do all of these things, and most LSPs work within the timeline. It doesn't get expedited and go that way. The only mandatory date was the May 2nd date of when we finally got the notice of release. The Board of Health just found out about this. We did not get notified in January of 2023.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
just a question. And I may know the answer, but I just wanted to. So currently, there is no requirement for mandatory PFAS testing or anything of that nature. This was groundwater that was tested.
So the groundwater was tested for PFAS.
Okay, just want to
And,
be sure I
and there
understand.
still is no requirement to test soil for PFAS,
Okay.
but that's coming quickly. I did talk to the town's licensed site professional from Weston and Sampson about getting access to a well he's working on. And I explained the situation to him, and him being an LSP, they have a lot of their own meetings and committees. And this is definitely on DEP's radar screen. But they don't know what levels to adopt. I've watched some of their stuff with EPA. Currently, EPA's regulations are much more stringent than the DEP regulations. Watching a recent presentation, DEP has formed a PFAS task force, and they were discussing the fact that they're currently not in compliance with the federal side of it, and that they may need 2 or 3 months to get up to speed and decide what they're going to do, and that the federal requirement of 4 parts per trillion, was DEP going to meet it, or were they going to beat it? And historically, DEP has always beat the federal regulations to be more protectant of the environment. And they normally beat it by 50%. So there was a comment that Mass DEP may actually go to 0. And that could get very expensive. But that's where it's at.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Ted Zakowski, 27 Sunset Drive, and for transparency, candidate for Board of Health. The site has 4 test wells on Phase 1 and 4 test wells on Phase 2, and it looks like they've been tested since, what the heck, it was going back, it goes back a few years that they've been testing for PFAS. And the levels would have fallen below standard before the DEP lowered their per trillion rate. Is that correct?
Before EPA lowered it, and then
EPA.
DEP followed suit a little bit, yes.
Okay. And if the DEP and the EPA keep lowering that standard, there really isn't anyone that's going to be safe from PFAS, because it seems to be in everything. It's in laundry detergent, it's in dishwashing soap, it's in anything that is coated for non-stick, non-stain, waterproofing. It's pretty much in everything. We all have it in our water. It's in our fish. It is being washed down our drains, so it's in our private septic tanks and our leaching fields and leaching into our wells that are 100 feet away from, pretty much within 100 feet, a little more or less, not less, more, minimally 100 feet. So with that, we're contaminating ourselves. So the site in West Dudley, this is of no, this is not his or their fault as a company, because they're just following the guidelines of the contract of which they're under. So I wouldn't bring them in here as an evildoer, and I'm afraid that, you know, the people that are listening might think that they're evildoers and just need to be shut down and hung at the cross. The point that I'm trying to make is that the companies that produce these products and use this chemical that they're really the ones at fault, and they're the ones to blame. And if we're going to do anything, we have to stop that first. I know in California they are looking to stop the PFAS used in products such as camping gear and rain gear and whatnot. But A lot of research, a lot of pages, 850 pages. Most of the meat was in the top 25, I believe. And it's no doubt we need to protect our water. That's the source of the problem, is the chemicals leaking into our water. And not that I'm defending the site in West Dudley. I know they have, again, 8 test wells that have been testing in different ranges for a few years. It's nice to hear that the dumping is stopped for the time being. When it does start back up, is there any way of the board regulating each truck? I was under the impression that each truck had a sheet that said what was in the truck, if there was a level of contamination in the truck, and they would be rejected that way. But my information was wrong, and I thought it was a viable source that was giving it to me.
So if I could, I was in this business of importing soils from Boston. And most of these soils come from skyscrapers that are building, 20-story underground parking garages. And they need to move a huge amount of soil just to get the foundation going and get those parking garages in, and it needs to move quickly. So DEP came up with a policy called similar soils, where you could take soils of similar contamination and bring them to a site that had similar levels of contamination. So you wouldn't be making the site any worse than it was. And people would go in, I would go to a site and do background testing to make sure, A, that I wasn't getting involved in someone's site that was already contaminated, because the generator of the soil stays responsible for the soil that they've delivered to the town forever. The transporter stays responsible for the soil that went in his truck that he brought to the town forever. The operator of the site, it's all joint and several liability, and it never goes away. So there's some recent studies by EPA. They tested soil in 1,000 different places around the country, and they all tested positive for PFAS. I think the fact that their phase 2 plan is to soil sample for PFAS is for one of 2 reasons: either to prove that the PFAS levels in the water, didn't come from the soil, or unfortunately prove that, there is PFAS in the soil. So there's no easy fix for it, but if you look at the generating paperwork from the soil leaving the site where it's being excavated, there's a checkoff box for every contaminant of concern the dirt was tested for. But none of the dirt that's come to Dudley has been tested for PFAS. And I don't think it's been tested for PFAS because DEP hasn't set a hard level. But for a town that has a PFAS problem as bad as Dudley's is emerging, it makes sense that the dirt would be tested for PFAS before it came to Dudley. And I think that's an important part of the public participation, and the residents would have some say in that of what's the level of PFAS that you want to allow into your town? Is it 4 parts per trillion, or is it 0? So
Certainly willing to sign that public involvement form. Is there one that was provided?
no, but we can get some information onto the Board of Health
As
website.
there's only 2 weeks to do so.
We can get it on there for next week. We could get it up there. Yeah,
And
Monday.
And if 10 people that sign it don't have to be the active 10 people that are participating, I'm sure that this room would sign.
And I actually think that the Board of Health could become the portal for the information, and it could go on the Board of Health website. And not just the 10 people that signed the petition, but the petition triggers the public participation, the mandatory public participation. And then everybody could go to the Board of Health website and see the documents for themselves. No one's allowed to submit anything to DEP in writing anymore. Everything goes into this electronic portal. So everybody gets to see everything. There's no emails anymore. There's no, if I tell you this, can
The
you
way
tell
of the
me
world.
that?
Yeah, it's pretty much everything. Yeah.
100% transparent.
One other question, and it just pertains to what the last speaker mentioned, and I'll just be more direct. Are there any other properties in town that are receiving truckloads of dirt?
So there's a, on the DEP website, there's a soil reclamation page, and it gives a list of all the soil reclamation projects in Massachusetts. Dudley only has 2, and I believe there's 5 other towns in Massachusetts that have projects. I haven't looked at them to see if they're receiving any soil.
So the second one on Dudley's list, the list including Dudley, is the second one on Oxford Ave?
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right. I did print out a couple copies of the Mass DEP fact sheet for PFAS and drinking water. I have 2 of them on hand, and I have it on my email if anyone's interested in receiving it. It did come from the DEP, and I'm sure that you can provide it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
2 comments on what he said. Thank you. Again, we're notifying everyone. It's, like you said, nothing against the businesses, anything to do with that. It's just simple notification that this is going on. And you talked about PFAS, and Water Department's been dealing with PFAS since 2019, spent $12 million on a water treatment plant, is involved in a lawsuit going after one of the manufacturers that is responsible for products with PFAS. But that is only at the public water supply level right now. There are no other that I'm aware
That's
of.
responsible parties.
Correct.
Yes.
At this time, but at least and it took the water department, I think it was probably close to 3 years before we were informed about, the potential lawsuits towards the major companies. So at least, I think it's good that they're going that direction, but like you said, it's everywhere. It's in absolutely everything, so, but thank you.
Even the town of Webster just posted on their Board of Health page that you can only eat 1 fish a month out of the Dudley, the Webster Lake now, that the fish are contaminated with PFAS. So it's that bad.
Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to come up?
I'd like to.
Yep, just come on up, state your name, your address.
My name is Carmela Manzaro. I live at 7 Jonathan Pass. I hear you when you say there's PFAS everywhere, but when someone starts bringing it into our towns, we're talking a different story here altogether. Your health, once it's taken away, I don't know if anyone has ever had cancer in here, but if it's in your water and you're drinking it and you're inhaling it while you're in your shower, not good. My son is a firefighter who is fighting to take PFAS out of their gear because they're getting cancer from it. So I don't know how anyone can just say it's everywhere. If someone is bringing it into our town purposely and for their gain, it's totally wrong.
Well, we're not saying it's purposely.
No, well,
We-
it is what I'm hearing with the log. It should have been tested
Yeah.
before it came here.
It wasn't mandated that they do so.
It wasn't mandated
So
by
it-
DEP.
No, it's not mandated.
Right. so-
But there are a lot of states that will test soil that's coming through their state. And if there's PFAS tested in it, they tell them you're not coming through our state. So there's something wrong here, and I don't think as citizens, and if we value our health, that we should be looking the other way. I am adamant about all natural products that I use. So when if I hear someone actually is bringing it into my town, it's like, it's totally out of my hands, but what's the government doing for me? And for all of us here. I know if I've had cancer and I found out I found PFAS in my well water, now I had it tested when I bought the house 11 years ago. I did not have it in my well because I am fanatic about well water. If I find it now, it's going to really make me upset because something has gone wrong. I don't know where, but I just don't want anyone to say, oh, well, it's everywhere, when someone is deliberately taking it into our town.
So we won't know that until they do the soil borings?
And I'd love to be on the public forum. I'd love to be part of it. And just to be out there as Ted, I'm one of the Board of Health candidates as well. But I appreciate you hearing my voice.
You're welcome. Thank you. There was another hand up.
Andrew Condos, 14 Jonathan Pass. You said it was brought to the Board of Health's attention about 2 weeks ago about this situation. Is there any way to kind of get involved in it to where, according to the DEP, Ramco submitted paperwork to them over a year ago? So is there anything that the Board of Health can do for the future that if somebody has to submit something like this to DEP, that it automatically goes to the Board of Health so people are aware of it instantaneously?
That would happen in the public participation once we kick that in, absolutely.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else? Come on up.
Hi, Judith Kimball, 4 Eric Way, Dudley. I took some notes and I just have a few like holes in my notes, so I was hoping you could fill them in. So I know you said we could get the number, but I was hoping you could repeat the state report number that you needed in order to look up the state report, because you said it pretty fast.
Yep, so if you were to go to EDEP, and we will put a link on the website for it.
Starts with a 2. That number?
No, so RTN would be release tracking number.
RTN?
Yep.
Yep.
And then you'll see region.
Yeah, that starts with a 2.
And you're gonna click on 2 for region 2.
Yep.
That's the central region in Worcester.
Okay.
And then the tracking number is 22286.
22286, okay.
Yep.
Just, in case it takes, I'm sure you guys have lives besides this, to take a few days to get that up on the site. And plus, if you wanted to talk about it, it's nice to have the number in front of you.
We'll have it there Monday.
Okay.
Now, there is another part of this, that if you go to the soil importation page, and you can click on the Dudley Fish Road project,
Yep.
and you'll be able to see where every truckload of dirt came from. You'll be able to see what it was tested for. You'll be able to see if there were any testing upsets or any of that stuff. It's an open book.
Okay, and that's on,
That's on EDP as well. But it's the soil reclamation page.
that's what I need to write down. Soil.
Do you want to put that on the?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll put that on
Okay,
the Board of Health page.
sure. And just bear with me for a minute, because I got like little questions in my notes. And then I think the one about the West Dudley, whereabouts in West Dudley? You guys have been kind of vague. Where is?
Fish Road.
Fish Road? Okay. That was that one.
And somewhere in the 796 pages that I read, there is a recommendation, either by the licensed site professional or by DEP, that there's 12 residences that should have their wells tested that are down gradient from this.
Now, and I got that here, that the classification for standards are changing, but you had mentioned that it was going to be now a residential classification code, and I was just wondering, what is the current standard for the residential classification code for the level of,
So the federal level
yeah,
is 4 parts per trillion,
4 parts per trillion?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
But I will tell you that it started at 40 or 60.
Originally EPA was 70, and then DEP went to 20, and then now they've all gone down to 4, and rumor has it they're going lower.
Okay, now that leads me kind of to another question that's not even on my paper, but you had said that this liability and goes back forever. So if this level has dropped and something was done, say, 20 years ago, and soil was used as a fill, and it is above this level, and would that?
Once it's discovered, so there is no statute of limitations on the ownership of soil. So if something's discovered 10 years later, DEP will try and find out who the generator of that soil was, and they will go back to that generator and make them a responsible party. This happened to WEPCO.
Right, I'm aware of that,
WEPCO
yep.
has been designated as a responsible party for PFAS contamination at Dave's Way. I went to one of their meetings. They had records of taking like 6 pounds of something in the 1940s or 50s that had, PFAS compounds. And DEP said, tag, you're it. The fortunate thing, if these soils do test with elevated levels of PFAS, is these come from Fortune 500 companies and Harvard University and MIT and all these places that are very responsible, and it would benefit the town to have more responsible parties than just the taxpayers.
Right, exactly. Okay. So that was just because I know in our development, there was a lot of fill that was brought in during that whole procedure. And so you just kind of wonder what is under and around. And then they had used that back area to take stuff out, and then they refilled it. But what did they refill it with? Where did it come from? That kind of stuff.
No statute of limitations.
Okay.
And even the trucker that delivered it, even the bulldozer that pushed it over, everybody's in the pool if it turns out to be
Okay.
something bad.
And again, just saying that back then, no one knew any better probably, but it still qualified for.
No one knew about PFAS, so we were all told. I probably attended soil meetings at DEP for 7 years. And maybe 3 years into it, DEP said there's a compound called PFAS, but it's way down the road.
And it came
I'll tell you,
fast, yeah.
The road got really short.
And then, so the petitions, because that was my other question, like the petition, it sounds like there's quite a few people here that'd be willing to sign. You only need the 10, that's gonna happen. You'll have that posted so people can come forward?
Yeah.
All right, and then, is it possible to freeze any future importing of soils while all this investigation mess is going on in the,
So DEP did that.
they did, so the whole town right now is in an importing freeze?
So I don't know about the whole town. I know that Fish Road was. So
Yeah.
I sent an email to DEP as the Board of Health agent.
What about Oxford Ave? Is that in a freeze as well or not yet?
I don't know.
Okay.
I only know about this, but I sent an email to DEP, bringing it to their attention that I was concerned. And the soil is inspected once a month by a licensed site professional. So one truck will come in once a month, or once a month, a load of dirt will be set aside in a quarantine area, and they will test that load of dirt for all of the parameters that DEP requires. But
Who gets to pick the load of dirt?
Third-party engineer, not related to the contractor, not related to DEP.
Perfect,
Completely
yeah.
third party, and he doesn't tell them when he's coming,
Okay.
but they don't test for PFAS.
Oh, but
They-
can we?
I can tell you that they will be.
Okay,
DEP will be doing something.
moving forward.
The Board of Health
Yeah.
has the ability to require that dirt coming to Dudley is tested for PFAS. But that's something that would, have to go through other meetings.
Okay, and I'm not being rude, I'm just looking down to see if I have any more little question marks all over the place here. I think you answered it all, great, so thank you very much. Thank you for what you do.
Got another one over there.
Is there any, oh,
Somebody else wants to.
yeah, can we go to her first?
Yeah,
All right,
I'll be super quick.
that's okay. Ted doesn't get 2 turns before you get one.
I'm Shelley Nobert. I live at 45 Northwest Schoolhouse Road, not far from Fish Road. So I was just curious, you said 12 homes were notified or are to be notified to have their water checked?
It's been recommended that as they go through this process, that they look into those 12 residences.
Have those residents already been notified? So if I were one of those residents, would I have already been notified?
No, I don't think they are notified. This is just the beginning of the phase
Right.
2 part of it. This moves really slow.
Right.
But
I'm just curious about my water. Like, should I be running out right now and having my water checked?
So, can I speak on that for a moment?
Yeah.
So in order to have your water tested for PFAS, it has to go to a licensed lab, and there are very few licensed labs in Massachusetts that test specifically for PFAS. It can be done. I work in the water department during the day, so this is why I know all about the water PFAS. and we test the water system. If you test your well, which you're more than welcome to, if you hit hot for PFAS, DEP is automatically notified. And they're gonna come down and you're responsible for a POET system, responsibility for upkeep of that POET system, and they're running about.
I'm responsible for it?
You are.
You would be,
You
so
are.
if you report a release, if it's an exceedance, the laboratory has to report that release to DEP, and you would get a notice of responsibility from DEP, and they would tell you to put in a point of entry treatment system, because it's your well. You haven't proved that it came from anywhere else yet, and that's the whole.
So I basically should just sit back and wait and not test my water?
No.
And just hope for the best
No.
until someone's actually found responsible for it?
No, it's just, you can test, but I wanna inform.
But I don't
you.
want to have to cough up 30 grand to have this system put into my house either.
It's about $7,000 right now.
I don't want to cough up a penny to have
I
this
just-
system put into my house.
And that's what I just want to explain to people.
Right, thank you for the heads up on that.
Why we haven't done anything, because if you test hot, and this is what happened with the water department, we were putting in a new well. They decided, DEP decided we're gonna start mandating testing for PFAS. We hit just 1 point, minimal point over the exceedance, and that's it. You have to put in a whole treatment plan. You have to spend $12 million. There's no negotiating. So, and that's what we're trying to educate individual homeowners is, you can test your well by all means. It is expensive. If you're found hot with PFAS, you have to put in a POET system. You will be responsible for that because you have no party to go after. Just like the water department they didn't care. DEP did not care.
So
But
basically, is it going to take like 3 to 6 months before I find out if there's a party responsible?
something that I would recommend is, once we get the public participation going, that people could contact DEP through the public participation and ask if they're down gradient from the release.
Yep.
And would DEP recommend that their well be tested by, we already have 2 potential responsible parties named
Yeah.
for Fish Road.
Yes.
So just like Webco got tagged and just like the town has been tagged, maybe that responsible party gets tagged for your POET system. But if
But I
they're able to prove,
Right.
and everybody that's in this is in the process of trying to prove that they're not the responsible party, that PFAS came from somewhere else, so that they don't have to spend that money. Because right now, the town's spending about $400,000 a year just maintaining some POET systems in a neighborhood. The PFAS was declared a hazardous waste on April 26th of '24 by EPA. The cost of disposing of these treatment filters is gonna double and triple now that it's hazardous waste. And I understand the current price to maintain them is $7,000 a year, $700 a month to maintain. I mean, this is,
I just didn't want you running out without knowing some of the information around it. And that's why the board is,
and I would wait a little bit and get a little more info, let us get a little more information. And maybe
Yeah, I just
contact-
learned of this today.
And maybe
like,
contact DEP and ask, where are your areas of concern? Where would you recommend that the Board of Health recommend people test their wells? Or could you get your PRPs to go test these wells?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ted?
Sorry, Ted Zukowski again. I won't be the annoying guy that keeps getting up. Oh, there was one abutter that, while I was looking at the report, that I thought was a concern. It's a hayfield. And it says specifically that it's not for human consumption, it's a hayfield. Well, of course it's not for human consumption, but it could be for animal consumption. Do we know if we're feeding livestock, local livestock, from that hayfield? And should that property be tested? And I don't want to throw out a farm owner or a property owner, but that's the direct abutter?
So in watching and following up on all of this PFAS stuff, EPA has determined that there's even PFAS in milk from cows. Where I live, we had a 100-acre agricultural field that we wanted to rent out, and one of the selectmen wanted to test it for PFAS, and lo and behold, it's got PFAS, and that's where our community garden is. People are growing their vegetables in a field with PFAS in it.
In your town, not?
My town.
Okay, I'd like to just clarify that.
But I think in that report, it does say, I believe, if I can remember, because there was a lot of information in there, that it's not for consumption, that field.
For human consumption, I
Or-
think it specifically
yeah.
said human, I don't know if it
if
said
it
animal.
I don't think it
I don't
said
think it said animal, that's why I'm
Yeah.
just questioning that, because I would want clarification on that one. There was one other thing, and it goes to one of the previous speaker two ago. Just looking also at the report, it looked like over the last 4 years, 5 trucks were rejected for having contaminant levels higher than what they should have been, and that was for various things. It wasn't for PFAS, it was for other things. And that just brings me back to the point, if the truck delivery is brought back, if they can start delivering there at any point, it would be, PFAS testing should be included in that.
And talking to the LSP from Weston and Sampson, he doesn't think that mandated PFAS testing by DEP is far behind. Is that far off.
If they go to a 0 level, then I would imagine that it has to be tested in everything.
The problem with that is that could cripple development, and DEP is a little bit political on the political side, and if they develop a
can't
policy.
they can't dump anything anywhere.
And it would have to go all the way to New York somewhere, and it would cost, 10 times as much as it's costing to bring it to Dudley.
Well, I hate to think that our little town of Dudley was an oversight, or look, little town of Dudley, nobody's gonna pay attention if we dump all this stuff there. That's why I wonder with only a monthly inspection from a independent contractor, if you will, only five trucks in 4 years, and 2 of them were in January of 2024 that were rejected. So it looks like in February of 2023 one was rejected, so it seems like the winter is a good time to test, because nobody's paying attention when it's too cold to look inside of a truck.
So actually, the dirt gets dumped on the ground,
Yeah.
and the engineer would go over and do a visual and an olfactory test and smell it, see if it looks different. If it has an odor to it, they have a meter that checks for volatile organic compounds. And if it exceeds 10 parts per million for VOCs, then that load is rejected from the site. And there would be a bill of lading generated, and it would go over the scale and show that the same amount of dirt that came in went back out. But as that dirt is rejected, the site that sent that dirt there, they're supposed to be checking it before they send it for that same thing. And the question came up, if you're really checking it at your site, how did I get that hot load? So they have to write a letter explaining why that dirt got out to Dudley or to some other project before they can ship any more dirt. And it's just one of the controls, the DEP put into it. But the dirt is not tested every day. It's not examined every day. It's one load once a month.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not diminishing their responsibility for their property and what they have, the business they chose to be in by any means. And if for some reason it needs to be shut down, then by all means, send it somewhere else. Thanks.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Jen.
Just as a response, just so that this, like we said, this was just notified to us, this is all new to us. When we're saying PFAS is in everything, it's not to take it lightly, it's just that it is, when you start reading about PFAS, you are overwhelmed with everything that it's in. It's in dental floss, it's in so many things that you wouldn't even think about. And so this is all new to us, and this is why as soon as we got notified of it, we're doing the public notification, going the route, because again, it's brand new. It's one of those things that's gonna be here, and we don't know what the outcomes are gonna be.
No. But we do want to be involved in the process.
Right.
Absolutely, knowledge is power.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any questions? Before we move on? No? Okay.
Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, moving on.
So, the next item on the agenda is a cease and desist order for RJ's Auto Body at 65 Schofield Ave. A couple of weeks ago, had a resident contact the office about a noise complaint from an exhaust fan from a spray booth that was basically right outside his bedroom window, and the odor of paint from the spray booth in his backyard. Can't sit in the backyard, can't use their pool, can't open their windows, can't use their air conditioners. And he had been at this for about 2 years, trying to get this situation rectified. He sent me an email chain this long. I read an email from a air quality inspector from DEP from July of 2023. She went to the resident's house, took a noise meter, did noise testing levels. It exceeded the allowable 10 decibels above ambient, and the smell of lacquer and paint was prevalent. She met with the owner of the body shop and gave some advice, and recommended that he contact the Office of Technical Assistance. DEP has a branch that assists people with problems for free and gives you advice. And one of her recommendations was to do that and to, buy some better filters for the spray booth and find a way to deaden the sound from the stack. Either raise it higher than the house and put something around it to deaden the stack. And none of that had happened, as of yet. So I went out, I met with the fellow that owned the auto body shop. He has now ordered the filters that DEP recommended. He realizes he has to do something about the fan. So in the enforcement order, I told him to comply with everything that DEP had mentioned, and that he needed to submit a plan to the Board of Health of how he would get into compliance and stay in compliance. But until that, to cease and desist from using the spray booth, not to close down his body shop, but to stop using the spray booth. And then I did make arrangements to go there on a Friday afternoon with the body shop owner's cooperation, that he was gonna paint a car at 3:30 in the afternoon. I went to the resident's property. The fan, we have a noise meter. Our noise meter works. It does have a calibrator, despite what you read on Facebook. And it is above the 10 decibels for ambient. It is loud. And it smelled like somebody was painting the car right in the resident's backyard. So I went, and when I dropped off the enforcement order, I explained to the fellow from the body shop that he just needs to come in compliance. And he did call the parts store there, and there was some confusion over whether or not the filters had been ordered, but they have been ordered, but they have to work. And they can't just work 80%, it has to eliminate the odor. There's no space between this residence and the back of this body shop. And unfortunately, the residence is elevated above the roof. It's up on a hill above the body shop, so everything's just, blowing right into the house. We have received a appeal letter from the operator of the body shop, but I think that the resident is here that was affected, and he might want to talk to you.
Thank you. Would you like to come up?
Yes, I might. Good evening. My name is Jim Triplett. I'm an attorney that represents Mr. Harden from Triplett and Fleming in Oxford, Mass. I've been representing Mr. Harden for months, and this issue, as the health agent indicated, has been going on for about 2 years. Mr. Harden has tried every possibility that he can. He's gone to the fire department, he's gone to DEP, he's talked to everybody, and it was only through Mr. Hannon's efforts, once I believe maybe DEP contacted him and he moved forward, that we're finally getting some progress. But the progress is this. he has violated the order, the cease and desist order, 5 times since that order was given to him last week. The order, and I'll let Mr. Harden speak to that, but the noxious odors that are coming from this particular auto body are overwhelming. He, especially during the summer when the windows are open, it flows through his windows. His wife already has heart problems, and frankly, we're asking the health people to enforce this order or have town council enforce this order. Clearly, he's not going to listen based on at least 5 times that he's violated the order since it's been received last week. As you can see from the order that Mr. Hannon sent, there's a very extensive requirement to submit a plan before this booth can operate, and he has done none of that. And it's obviously within your compliance authority to approve this plan, and I think he's got a lot of work to do before he can reopen any kind of auto body spraying activity. So again, we would ask strongly that that you have town council enforce this order if he's not going to voluntarily do it. Mr. Harden handed me a letter tonight from his wife. She can't be here tonight. She actually has a statement she wishes to submit to the Board of Health, just so that it's on record. I'm not going to waste the board's time by reading it. I'll just give you a copy of it and ask, since I just got it, if maybe the town could give me back a copy once I officially present this. But in effect, she is going through the whole history of this and essentially telling the board that she actually tears up and gets nauseous from these odors, and essentially it's making their property uninhabitable, because I actually asked Mr. Harden several months ago to record every time that either the odors or the fan were operating, and in the course of 3 months, there were 41 times. And that's only in the last few months. That has nothing to do with the last 2 years, because you never recorded all this. So again, I think this is a specific public health hazard that needs to be addressed if the board would be so cooperative in doing that. Who would you like me to give this to?
Amanda,
If you don't mind.
And if I could, so this is a 7-page cease and desist order, but I did my best to educate the operator of just what was required. I don't think that the DEP gave them all of the information. And when you go through the state regulations for body shops, there is actually a good neighbor requirement. And you can't affect the peaceful and quiet enjoyment of someone's property. And I would agree that without the proper filters in the spray booth, there's no peaceful and quiet enjoyment of that backyard. On the way home, I could still smell the paint in my nose. And in defense somewhat to the fellow from RJ's, when I went to see him, he asked me how it went, and I said, it smelled. And he said, I've been in this business so long, I really don't smell it. And that's true. When I had to do enforcement on an asphalt plant, they thought it didn't smell, and I had told the guy, I said, you smell like asphalt, never mind what's coming out of your asphalt plant. So he needs to just submit a plan, and he needs to stop using the spray booth until the filters come in, and he does something about it.
Thank you very much.
Jeff Blake did call me. Attorney
Triplett
did speak to Jeff Blake. He wanted to know if he could go to court and try and get the court to enforce the order. And Jeff said that would entail making him special town counsel for the town of Dudley, and that wasn't going to fly. So in order to do that, the board would have to ask the town administrator for access to town council. And if the town can't afford to do that, or it doesn't rise to the level of doing that, then I think Attorney Triplett could take our cease and desist order and possibly build off of that at the district court. Correct me if I'm wrong, but.
If I might add to that just for a second, the reason that would happen, and we'd be happy to bear the cost if the town doesn't choose to do it, is that we have to, in order to make this an easy enforcement, we would have to have authority from the town to just enforce the order, rather than go through a long process of filing a nuisance claim and all the other things that go with it, which obviously makes it a lot more work than just having authority from the town to say, look, the town's given an order, he's not following what he's supposed to, please, Superior Court, enforce the order. And they would probably do it without a lot of issue. So with that in mind, we'll leave it there. The only thing I would like to add to this is that obviously I think it's apparent to everybody that the longer this goes on, the long-term health effects to the Hardens can be very serious. And we may not know that for years, but, you know, we hope we can stop it immediately so that he can comply. We're not trying to stop his business. We just want him to do what he needs to do to make sure that everything is safe for everybody. So with that in mind, I don't know if Mr. Harden, with your permission, would like to speak? Is that okay, Board of Health?
I don't go for manicures, but I'd say the smell was as bad as walking into a nail salon, you know, standing at the front door of his house. It was bad.
So my name's John Harden. I'm the abutter to RJ's Auto Body Shop, who is he subleases the property from Henry's Auto Sales and Service that used to be in business. When all this was coming about, I contacted Nelson, the building department, and he told me that it's a permitted, that he's working under Henry's Sales and Service. Mr. Frappia put in his own spray booth. It had never had a spray booth in the past. I'm a licensed construction supervisor. If you do any kind of work like that, you need to pull a permit. I think anybody with common sense that looked at this whole property would say, yeah, this isn't a good spot for an exhaust fan. It's an area of about multifamilies all around it, except for like 2 single families. I did everything in my power to try to get this stopped, and nobody would. It was just a blind eyes and deaf ears. Nobody wanted to do anything. Nelson said contact Camille. Camille was on maternity leave. I contacted DEP. I'm not trying to be, you know, it's just total nuisance and the smell. This town put us through, you know, all the steps to put in an above-ground pool for my grandchildren. I mean, I had to get a site plan with a stamp. I had to get an electric inspection and all the electrical done. They wouldn't let me swim in my pool without an occupancy permit. This guy comes in, rents from Henry, and does what he wants. Puts his own spray booth that's not certified, to my knowledge.
I was gonna say, do you know that a permit was not pulled for that?
I know that a permit was not pulled ever.
You know?
When the
Permit was pulled or no?
The only permit that was pulled was when I started complaining. It showed up that they pulled an electrical permit to do some work on the exhaust fan. But that should have triggered Nelson into looking into what's going on. Nobody did anything.
Well,
And,
electrical permits don't go through Nelson, so he wouldn't be aware of.
but wouldn't it be
that.
attached to a building permit?
Only if it was for something, a building permit, an electrical
So it'd be
permit-
standalone?
Yeah, an electrical
my-
permit
my
can be
bad
standalone.
then.
No,
But-
not a problem. I'm trying to understand what the whole.
So previously, Henry had subleased that same premises to another party, and they would be spraying with, they'd wet the garage floor and they'd spray, and a whole mist would hang around the place. That guy eventually got thrown out. I think the town had issues with him as well. He left, and then Henry went to sell the property. It didn't sell for, I think, 2 years. And then this guy came along, and he subleased it. And when this first happened, I was just getting my pool done, and we were starting to use the pool, and he came to me, he said, give me 2 weeks, John. I know I have to make a bunch of money because I need to put a stack in that's 35 feet high. And I'm like, fine, I won't complain to anybody for 2 weeks. Do your work, whatever. Time dragged on. He never did anything. I was getting significant older when I was in my pool. My grandkids, my wife, we were all affected by it. And then he just said, well, you know, I don't know who directed him to raise his stack, but before he even raised his stack on his exhaust fan, I reached out to Nelson saying that that's not going to do the trick. It's going to make it even worse because that stack, now that it's been raised like 10 feet on top of Henry's roof, brings it right, all the odor goes right into my house, my 4 bedrooms. So I can't even watch TV at night. I think when the fan's on, it's just like a Chinese water torch test, you know, on off, on off.
What's a stack?
It's a big, probably 2 foot round. It's like putting a tuba on it. It made it, you could tell it would be worse than sound-wise anyways. And the height just made it worse because of the disparity of the land. It made it closer to me. And the wind always blows at my house, so all my 4 bedrooms, you open a window, you smell paint when he's painting. You hear it. It's like, I'm in my pool. The thing goes on. It's like, you're kidding me, right? So I'm very disappointed with the town, or in all parties involved, except Patrick, who is the only one that did anything for this. And I would like to have it, to be able to have the injunction to enforce the cease and desist, because Mr. Frappia, since he was handed that cease and desist, several times has run the fan already. He was running it today. I get pictures of it, so.
I think I'd like to say, you know, I'm sorry that you're upset, but to hear you say that no one's done anything except for Pat, like, this is the first time it's been brought to my attention. So there's a lot of people in Facebook world who are now gonna say the Board of Health does nothing, and that's not true. So we hear you, we wanna help, but we don't not do nothing
Okay.
if we didn't know. So I wanna defend myself.
So being the party that's
So I
being.
understand that you're upset, but if it's the first time we heard,
So
at least myself, I can't speak for Jen.
I was aware that Camille was meeting DEP with Nelson and the fire department down there last year.
Yep.
But I never heard any more about it, and then she did go
Yeah,
out.
and then
She
we were
went-
in opposite roles. She was the chair and I wasn't. So
And
when
we
you're the
never
chair,
heard-
you hear more. So I
Right.
didn't know.
I
It's
did,
okay.
well, I'm in the halls.
Yes,
too.
I completely
So,
understand.
I did know that, but I never heard an outcome of that, and
Mm-hmm.
Camille did go on maternity, and then.
Left.
So as soon as, I will let you, and you, Patrick, you can, as soon as Patrick told me about this, I told him to pull the file, because DEP was out here already regarding it.
Perfect.
So, and I have some questions for Mr. Frappier after as well,
Okay.
but just till, so, and as soon as he told, I said, pull the file, because I knew that there was, but I never knew any follow-up, and
Because she
as
left.
we're
'Cause
board
she
me-
left.
yeah, and unfortunately, we don't know everything, and we don't always know if something fell through the crack or not.
So what I did is I sent emails to the Board of Health, the fire department, the DEP, everybody that I have emails, countless emails of everything I said to everybody. Perhaps you weren't in the chain at the
Yeah, 'cause
time.
I wasn't the
and
chair, so-
I didn't get
I don't mean
any
to slam
emails,
the Board of Health,
Yeah.
but
Well,
being me, nobody's doing anything for 2 years. I'm trying to get this guy in compliance and to stop doing this. And it's very frustrating. It was dead-ended when I was told Camille's on maternity leave, so, in fact, I think one of the people from Webster looked in on that meeting from the Board of Health as well, so.
oh. And then we didn't have an agent for a while, so
Yeah,
I
you didn't have an
understand.
agent, so I'm in limbo.
No, and I, you know,
I was told by the DEP to call the Dudley Fire Department every time I smelled the odor. So I called them 3 or 4 times. They came. A couple times they smelled it, a couple times it's dissipated, right? I work with the Marlboro Fire Department in my course of business at times. I don't want somebody to need a rescue while they're trying to smell for odors at my house. So I stopped calling them, but I kept contacting the building department, Paul from the fire department. I just kept going at it until finally I tried to get a meeting with Michelle, the secretary for the selectmen, got every one of my emails, and I was under the impression she was giving them emails to a selectman. Never heard anything of a selectman. I went to Michelle, and she says, well, no. So it wasn't going anywhere. So I pay a lot of taxes. This guy's a sublease to Henry, and I feel I have no recourse in the matter. So I had to get counsel at my expense to stop this, which is, if any one of you guys were experiencing what I've experienced, and yes, you didn't know about it, I think it would have been shut down immediately, you know? So that's my point.
And as soon as we found out, we did.
Yeah.
Right. So I have.
I guess I just felt bad.
Yeah.
I should
No, I
have,
know.
I just felt bad because I didn't know, and I'm like, I understand you're angry, but that's not, we're not here to go back and
My poor
forth, right?
wife, she's been
We just gotta-
retired since April, so she lived all through the summer from April on. She's there all day, and it's
Yeah.
on and off and on and off.
So I have some questions for Mr. Frappier.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Because I see his.
He's here.
Yeah,
Do you
I
want-
see the letter. Can we just continue on for a few minutes? Just because I don't want to lose.
Train of thought.
Yeah. So, I read through this letter, and, let's see. The letter states that inspection was performed on May 29th, 2023. No such inspection was done in May of 2023. When was DEP out there?
May 29th. I used the email from
Okay.
Michelle from DEP.
Yeah,
And her email was dated
okay.
May 29th. So I referenced that letter.
Because I know Camille went out on maternity leave the end of May, beginning of June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew it was right around, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, do you want to have Mr. Frappier come forward?
Mr. Frappier, do you want to come up? Just state your name and your address.
Roger Frappier, 8 Kennedy Drive.
Thank you. So, from what I've read is DEP made recommendations and also gave you a website and places that you could go to correct these problems.
I never received a recommendation website. I don't believe.
happened in-
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
No, I'm just-
I don't recall.
So when I spoke to Michelle on the phone, and I believe it was even in her email that she had recommended to you putting some type of a baffle on the fan.
Which
And then getting charcoal filters or something of an equivalent to reduce the emissions from the spray booth.
when she came out, she recommended me improving my filtration system. I have an email right here that states paint pockets, observe exhaust. I'm a little nervous, but
That's okay.
These filters meet DEP standards, which that was back in June or May or June. That was April
Back in
2023. So then, yes, I've been trying to get charcoal filters. Not a lot of people in my industry use charcoal filters because they're not such close proximity. I deal with my paint store, where I get all my supplies from, including my filters. They keep dropping the ball on me, but I actually have charcoal filters being delivered tomorrow.
But it took you over a year
This,
to,
go ahead.
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
it took you over a year to respond to one item that was recommended by DEP.
No, that's not true at all. So my spray booth stack was this tall, right? 8 feet, I believe. So they recommended I go higher. I go higher, and to get louder. So they recommended I sound deaden my baffles. I'd sound deaden my baffles months and months ago. They don't make an insulation to go around a exhaust stack. So I've come up with my own game plan, and I've since our visit last week, I put sound deadening that I use in an automobile to deaden the noise. I've cut down trees so that, because the fire department wanted me to trim all the trees back, so I paid to trim the trees back so that the ventilation goes straight up, it doesn't get covered by the foliage and all that stuff. So I've made improvement and improvement and improvement. It's not like I just sat with my hands in my pockets. I've done many, many things to try to improve this. And I do have charcoal filters being delivered in the morning.
So, if I could.
Yeah. Then I'll-
I'm actually trying to find Michelle's email real quick, but when I spoke to Michelle and when I read Michelle's email, she did advise in 2023 that the noise level was above 10 dB ambient.
The reason, oh, I'm sorry.
She did. And then she made the suggestion to call Office of Technical Assistance and some other information. And she even gave me a reference to a building code that had some requirements. But unfortunately, he was told he was grandfathered by our building department. So
And so,
Grandfather
there's some
for what?
confusion.
for the spray booth,
For the body shop,
for the body shop, okay.
yes. No one
Spent-
got down to the brass tacks of the spray booth.
Because usually the fire department's involved in the spray booth and everything. I guess that's where I'm,
They've
Yes.
all been to the shop. Nelson's been to the shop. Everybody's
know.
been to the shop.
Yeah.
Everybody's been there, and there was no complaints by anybody. Henry's here too, and his wife. It's been a body shop for years and years and years. It wasn't just a sales and service department. They've been spraying cars there since the 60s, and they're here. They can tell you that themselves.
so,
They've been spraying cars, is that what you said?
Yes.
So I guess I'm playing devil's advocate. So
And-
60 years ago to now, is the filtration system different than it was then to now?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, it's more improved now, but also.
So it's probably worse then, but so, I guess like, no complaints then to that as they are. Maybe there weren't houses back there, but I guess I'm just trying to understand.
And the reason why I'm over 10 decibels is because DEP made me do that additional stack. So now I got more hollowness, which makes it louder and louder.
which
you know,
still has to be rectified because.
which I have done in the last week.
So you go back out and do these inspections, Pat, or DEP does, because it's, you
No,
know.
she wants, so she.
Who's she?
she's a-
Michelle.
Michelle, and I can't think of her last
Oh,
name.
it's not.
No, not our, no, Michelle from DEP.
From DEP. Del Mari?
Yeah, Michelle Del Mari.
So, in my phone call with her, she did her own sound test. It was in excess. We have a noise meter, and contrary to what Facebook says, we do know how to use it, and we do have a calibration tool for this noise meter.
So
Calibrated the noise meter. I went up to the residence. I got the ambient background at 3:30 in the afternoon, and Schofield Ave is kind of a noisy road. But with the fan on, it exceeded the 10 decibels that's allowable under the state noise ordinance. And the state has had the same noise requirements since 1990. They haven't felt, any reason to change that.
So can we set up an appointment for you to come out and do that again? Because I've now, since then, I've put sound deadening on my stack.
I'd rather do it all at once. I'd rather get your
that-
plan of
that-
what you're gonna do and get the
You-
filters in.
You told me
and-
you told me to deaden sound and get the filters in, so the filters will be delivered tomorrow morning.
Yep.
So,
But
we
you
need a
also
written
needed to
plan.
submit a written plan of how you were going to stay in
I don't-
compliance.
I work on cars for a living. I don't know how to write a plan.
It's
I'm
just
saying.
basically telling us what
But-
you're going to do
that's
to
fine, that's fine,
to
okay,
rectify what
that's fine.
he's saying and what DEP said.
Yeah.
That's basically, because we
Okay.
just need to have something in writing.
Okay.
Now, have you done any spraying this past week since you've received the cease and desist?
I have.
Why?
Because he said he wasn't going to enforce it.
That's,
Okay, regardless of
So-
what.
so maybe
No,
I took that the wrong way.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
speaking.
yeah, I'm sorry.
You need to give us courtesy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You defied a cease and desist order, blatantly. You just said, we issued a cease and desist order, and you said you went against it. I don't care what he says, and I'm not saying you did.
But let's get the, yeah.
I'm not, and I apologize, but you asked for an appeal in front of the board. The cease and desist is in effect until you've met with us. So, and you can ask this gentleman right here, I'm a very wonderful person unless you cross me, right? I told you that the last time. And everything worked out beautifully.
Well, I'm here for a reason.
Not what you think, though.
Not what you think.
Not at all what you think. You defied a cease and desist. If we give you an order, right there, it says, stop. So if the police came and tell you to stop, you're just gonna do it because, you didn't believe him or you didn't understand the way he said it. You filed for an appeal. The appeal, it didn't mean because you filed for an appeal that you can do what you want. So.
I apologize.
Yeah, well, and that, see, I.
So on the enforcement, my comment was that I didn't think that this rose to the level that the town attorney would be allowed to spend money enforcing this.
But we, as the board, can enforce it. And I guess that's what about everything. What upsets me the most is that you were given a cease and desist so that things could, excuse me, could we just have one conversation? If you'll have time to come up and speak, but it's very distracting when other people are speaking. Sorry, Madam Chair, I just stepped on your toes totally my last time.
Definitely the last time.
Don't do it again. Last time. I can work through everything and understand delays and this, but you blatantly defied a cease and desist order. And that's upsetting. So that in my opinion, I've lost all faith in you. Sorry. Because we gave you a cease and desist. You should have stopped until you gave us a written plan. You came and met with us. We're very easygoing. But again, you defied what we've done, what we've asked. That's not good business practice. It's really not. If you ask somebody not to do something and they go against it when you have authority, how would you feel? Would you lose respect for them?
Obviously.
Okay, so you can understand where I'm coming from, that, dude, we issued you to cease and desist, follow it. We're very easygoing to work with. We're all about business.
I understand.
But, just like the restaurants, easily follow what was being asked of you. But if you can't follow that, then we have to protect our town. So we were trying to come to a resolution.
Yes, ma'am.
That would make everybody happy, not put you out of business, not make you have to leave that area but we're trying to, our goal is to have compromise and, so that they can go out and enjoy their backyard. And I'm sure you don't smell it because you work in it every day. I know what it's like when you're around something all the time, you lose the smell of it. I get it.
And it was only temporary.
Correct.
Until today.
Correct. Until we met.
So May 30 to today is the 6th, right?
So I found the DEP email, and it was from Michelle Del Mare, and it was Tuesday, July 18th. And she wrote, "Hi, Mr. Frappier, thank you for meeting with me, Fire Chief," I don't want to butcher the name, Deputy Chief, same thing, and Eileen Alexander, who was a Regional Public Health Coordinator for the South Central Mass Partnership for Public Health, which includes Dudley, so the regional. During the site visit, Eileen and I took sound levels at 5 Office Hill Road, his residence, which is higher in elevation than your building. Sound level readings were taken with a properly calibrated Quest 1900 Type 1 sound level meter. The temperature was about 83 degrees. It was humid with partly cloudy skies, and the wind was variable at approximately 9 miles per hour. An ambient sound level reading was taken at about 1:20 p.m., which was recorded at 42.1 dBA. The day I was there, it was 43. Then the exhaust stack for the paint spray booth was turned on. The sound level reading taken with the influence of the noise from the exhaust stack was 56.6, so that's 16.6 dB over the limit. This is an exceedance of Mass DEP's noise policy, which is used to determine compliance with Mass DEP's noise regulation, as the noise from the exhaust stack was greater than 10 decibels over the ambient reading. Please note that 1:20 p.m. is not the quietest part of the day, so the difference between the source on and the source off at ambient readings might increase at different times of the day. So if he were to spray at 7 o'clock at night or spray on a Saturday or something, it would be an even bigger exceedance is what she's getting at. Per our group discussion after the readings, you indicated that you'd be willing to add weather stripping to the dampers at the top of the exhaust stack to help alleviate the clanking noise. There's flappers that open, and when they close, they would clank, and he did do that. They don't clank anymore. but when the fan runs, it's still above the 10. You also offered to investigate the addition of noise attenuating panels around the stack to see if that would help mitigate the noise being generated. That has not occurred. And again, in Acushnet, there was noise from vents on asphalt tanks, and they had noise attenuating panels built around them, and it did cure that item. The third item was to change the exhaust stack filters as they were starting to look heavy with captured paint overspray. Thank you for providing documentation. The electronic signature for Recre Info was completed. So he registered as a small hazardous waste generator based on that inspection. And Mass DEP looks forward to the completion of the on-site Class A notification of the waste oil burner. There's a waste oil burner there as well that has no permit.
It has a permit.
I haven't seen it run.
It
It's
has a
not winter.
permit. It has a
but it's
permit,
there.
and it's,
And then please keep us posted with your progress on noise mitigation from the operation of the exhaust stack and the changing of the paint spray booth filters. As discussed, please also keep researching a carbon filter option in case it's needed for odor control. Eileen and I would also highly recommend that you reach out to the Massachusetts Office of Technical Assistance, who offers free confidential advice/assistance for industrial and commercial businesses. Here's the link to the website, and there's a link to the website. Thank you for everything you've done to date, and your actions are appreciated, Michelle. And that's why I wrote a cease and desist order,
Yeah.
after going there, so.
So in this letter that you wrote,
correct.
your appeal, there are 4 items that you stated that you corrected. The roof stack, the deadening dampers on the ventilation, the trees that you said, and then install new filters on the current system. And then underneath that, it says, an inspection was completed after necessary changes were made. Has that happened, or is that what they just did? Have you done that yet, Pat, or is that what these?
There were no follow-up
So
inspections.
so we have not had a follow-up inspection of the 4 things that you said that you corrected?
No, he's saying that,
Is that what
are
I'm
those
reading?
recent corrections, or are you saying that's what you corrected based on what DEP wanted?
No, that's,
Since I was there?
But,
I forget, I
Take your
apologize,
time.
I'm nervous, but,
I apologize, I'm not trying to get you all.
yeah,
I just,
yeah.
you know,
But so in July of 2023, bless you back there, those changes were made a year ago, or?
Yes, that's what that says,
Okay.
but they didn't work.
Okay, so the inspection was made a year ago, and now new things have arrived, is what that email is?
No, this is from '23.
Okay, same thing, okay. So we still have not had a follow-up inspection since July of 2023?
right, but he's gone back out since, and there's still problems.
Okay.
It hasn't been corrected.
All right,
So the filters weren't changed. There is no sound deadening on the stack.
okay.
Is there, I don't know.
I
so you can
understand.
answer me.
There is now sound ending on my stack. So
There is now the thing that you put on the auto body
Right,
material.
so if we can get a reading done, if I have to put more on, I'll put more on.
Okay.
There's no weather stripping, there's no weatherproof insulation that I could wrap my stack with.
Okay.
You know, so like I can't put like a 3-inch sound deadening wrap insulation like you have, like,
But I'm sure there are businesses out there that have it, right? So,
So, what I'd recommend is,
It comes down to cost.
but he also contacting the
that
site.
website.
The Office of Standard, yes, the
They're
technical
supposed to
assistance.
help out industrial and offer, they might have some more inexpensive alternatives. Is there any routine, you have to change your filters every so often?
yeah, I change them once every month and a half.
So now these will be new charcoal filters?
Correct.
And you'll be changing them?
I change them once a month if I have to.
Okay. Do you keep a log of that? Just
I do not,
curious.
I do not. No.
One point though, Jen?
Yeah.
So it says in his appeal letter that new charcoal filters will reduce the emission of odors by 90%. It still can't affect the good neighbor part of this. 90% may not get you where you need to be. You just can't, pick that number.
Right.
There are consultants that he could hire. Maybe this paint supplier could give him some information, or the Office of Technical Assistance. I would really take advantage of that free advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if they give you the advice and you follow
I
it.
just seen the email too. I didn't realize that she put that on the bottom.
Yeah, it might be a great.
I'm busy trying to build a business at the same time. I understand that.
And unfortunately, it takes a lot, and.
I know it takes a real
But they
lot.
might be able to offer you a lot more technical assistance,
Yeah.
because this is what they specialize in. But I do, my own personal opinion, just for your own, keeping a log of your filter changeouts is a good thing, so that, you know, it's a good idea. And what are your hours of operation? Do you have set hours of operation?
8:30 to 5.
8:35. How many days a week?
5 days a week, and then Saturday, 8:30 to noon.
Thank you, just curious.
Yeah.
So at my last job, DEP came out and trained us in doing olfactory testing. It definitely rises to the level of a nuisance.
What does?
Oh,
Oh,
your current
yeah,
filter
yeah, okay.
situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I guess what I would like is if you can reach out to that,
Technical assistance
thank you.
people. Yeah.
And speak with them, write us a plan, and it doesn't have to be fancy.
Yep.
Just tell me, 1, 2, 3, you know, well, tell her.
I'm willing to help you with it.
Yeah.
At this point, give us a chance, please. We're here to. Again, I understand
I
that, but
haven't-
this
I
is
haven't
the
been-
first
I haven't been in
time
business for
that
3
we're
years.
having this, and our goal is to try to work with both sides to have the best outcome for both. Okay, I understand your frustration totally, but that being said, I want to go back to, you have a cease and desist on you.
I understand that now.
And your cease and desist will not be removed, you can correct me if I'm wrong, until we have a written, and all
Plan.
those items have been approved by Patrick, and they've been corrected, and a reinspection is done,
Okay.
and it passes.
So actually what will happen tonight is you would vote to uphold
Yep.
the cease and desist
Or-
order. And it would be the Board of Health that removes the cease and desist
Okay.
order, not the agent.
So, and the reason why,
We would remove the cease and desist after everything passes inspection?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it comes up
Okay,
with a plan.
Yep,
and then you go out and.
Fires it up, the
inspect.
plan works, everything
okay,
works.
continue, I'm sorry.
No, no, that's fine, I'm just trying to put it all out there for you so that you'll have this. So.
I get the gist of it.
There'll be, you can operate, but you cannot do any spraying.
Okay.
Nothing to do
That was
with
the
spraying.
intention.
Perfect.
We didn't want to put them out of business.
Perfect.
Okay.
You can communicate with Patrick. If there is any spraying, contact Patrick right away.
He is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because unfortunately, it puts a lot on Patrick, but this is what you're getting a
Actually, the
big bucks
first night,
for.
I had just gotten home and I got the call and said, all right, I'll come back.
Yeah, and this is, you know, we want you to, at least,
Yeah.
this again, this is just me and my
We do,
opinion.
we want you to succeed.
We
Yeah.
want you to be able
We
to
do.
operate your business,
Yeah.
but we also want them to be able to
I understand that.
enjoy
I understand that
and,
truly.
you know, not have a nuisance. We don't want you to leave, we
Yeah.
don't, and I'm sure, I would hope that if everything is corrected, there wouldn't be an issue between the two parties.
And I specifically recommended to him that he appeal the decision so that he didn't get locked out and time barred and that this stood. So that he got to tell his side of the story and it just doesn't become law. Because if you don't, like Subway,
Yes.
didn't appeal our decision, and that was the end of it. That,
Right.
you know, that stood. And that'd be a little unfair.
And it sounds like your supplies are coming.
Correct.
So it's not like this is,
New truck.
we hope this isn't gonna go on too much longer. If you get your plan submitted, you reach out to that website
Yes.
and those filters, and Pat can come out.
Okay.
So it's not like, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, depending on you,
Yep, I
right?
understand, I
But it
understand.
will,
So-
it-
It could take a little bit of time.
the abutter will have some
Oh, yeah.
some say in this. I mean,
Yeah.
the test will be from the abutter's house,
Correct.
and there will have to be 0 odor, not 10%.
Right, so it might not work the first time, you might have to do more work to make it,
And I think that's where the
0.
Office of Technical Assistance will dial.
So are we
that.
gonna test it, or are we just gonna stand there with our noses? So,
It's an olfactory test. It's
that
with my
means
nose.
smell.
That's what I was trained to do by DEP. And the noise is with a calibrated noise meter.
okay,
You must have friends in the business that have, up-to-date spray booths and have
Mm-hmm.
had, I called friends of mine that are in the business, and,
Yeah.
and my friend said, I'm in the same situation. Someone's, 20 feet above me in the back. He had to put in charcoal filters, but he also had to put in an air control system so that he had negative air pressure in his booth. So, I don't know what any of that means, but he had to do some work.
I don't either.
Yeah, no, but it's, to be in compliance these days with all of these things, it's expensive.
Well, ultimately, that's the goal, right? No smell, because we want the neighbor not to have the smell, or anybody else too, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Hudson, if I might say, just
Yeah, as long as Mr. Frappier is done, so we could have a spot for you. Is there anything else that you want to say?
No, I'm gonna come up with my plan and put my filters in and.
Work with
and-
Patrick,
yeah.
he's
Yes.
very,
Yeah, no
and don't
problem.
worry, if you
But-
come, when you come back, you don't have to see me.
But please call DEP.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
She's
take
going
you
on
off.
with a bang.
I didn't mean to take you off.
No, and I apologize, it's
Please
just,
talk to DEP,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
because they're, in the end, they're the driving force,
Okay. Yes, sir.
all right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim Triplett returning to the podium just for a second, just to clarify something. I have to give Mr. Hannon a lot of credit here because he's given Mr. Frappier the actual roadmap to do this correctly. Because if you read the regulation that he included with the cease and desist order, it lays it out perfectly. He's got to have a plan. That plan's got to be acceptable to both the Board of Health and the DEP. That may require a lot of work or a little work. I mean, I think what's happened here, I think we can see it, it's been kind of a patchwork thing. Somebody comes along and says, oh, you got to put, filtration, you got to do this. None of that may be correct. What it requires is somebody with expertise to be able to say, you need to do this, 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 and this, and that plan will comply, whether it's the technical assistance or with Mr. Hannon's assistance. That's all we're looking for, to make sure that it's done correctly. And you guys seem to be doing a perfect job in trying to focus it in that direction. So,
Our goal is to have businesses in town.
Right.
We don't want to shut anyone down. We could just sit here up all night and say, we don't want to listen to anyone, and we're going to say, no, 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 no. That's not the goal.
No.
At all. It might not be pretty at first to get there, but we got to get there, so, yeah.
But I will say, I don't make recommendations, because if they don't work, I don't want anyone saying, this is what you told me to do.
Exactly.
And that's why I want DEP to involve. They're the professionals, they fix this problem probably in 40 towns. And they can give them the information, and rather than throwing darts and spending money every time you throw a dart, get the right information and do it
right,
once.
and may require an expert who does this kind of work to
And I'm
help
sure there's
him do
somebody
it
out there.
the way it's done. A couple other things I'd like to clarify, and just I'll get out of your way. First of all, just the stack. I want to mention the stack that he put up. The regulation says that the stack has got to be 10 feet off a roof or 35 feet from the ground. So I think what happened in this case is they went 10 feet up, and that made it exactly level with Mr. Harden's house.
Oh, okay.
If they had gone 35 feet from the ground, it would have taken it above it, and that may have, I don't know because I'm not an expert, but that may have solved it. Now, 35 feet doesn't look good. It certainly is an ugly-looking thing, but it probably would have maybe addressed the problem. I will say, and I believe that Mrs. Harden mentioned it, taking out the trees actually cleared the area so that the odors were not interrupted, actually, the odors and the noise. The trees probably would have been better to stay there. I don't know for sure, but it appears to be the case. So, again, it's all...
Unfortunately, they are downwind 75% of the year.
That's right.
We have access to software. I looked at it. 75% of the year, the wind is blowing right at their house. And it's just the perfect storm.
And lastly, I want to say I'm sensitive to all the Facebook requirements, the things that people start criticizing people for. I worked for a town for 30 years, so I know exactly how those things go. But I will say that I think Mr. Harden, each particular person he went to, I think, tried to do what their particular job is. Because I went to most of these people and spoke to them, the fire department, and they were good about what they tried to do, but it really wasn't their job in terms of what you people are handling now, which appears to be the end road here. So I don't think it's an issue of they didn't do what they were supposed to. I think it's an issue of they only did what was within their bailiwick. So I just wanted to clarify that. I know he's very frustrated, and I don't blame him. But I did talk to all these people, and they did try, you know, like, for instance, the oil burner. I know the fire department was there and made them comply with the oil burner stuff, and that's their job. It's not their job necessarily to stop noise.
Right.
So, anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. I don't think he's attacking the town. I think he's just frustrated and wants to make sure
I
that,
understand.
so, thank you very much for your time.
Welcome. Yep.
Hi, my name is Sasha Dudley. I live in Clarksville, Dudley, Mass. I'm owner of the shop, and I'm wife of Henry Sales and Service. I just want to say something to correct it, Mr. whatever, I don't know your name, I apologize. The business never was for sale, never. Okay, and we wasn't even thinking to sell to anybody. Plus, RL, no, the owner now, he is very nice and clean. We never have trouble with him. And being in a business for so many years, over 40 years, we in a business in Dudley. And we always also pay taxes too, like he mentioned, he pay taxes. Well, we pay high taxes too. We have house, we have business. And our tax is very high too. We not complain, we enjoy it. And we do what we have to do. But when he was buying that house, okay, fine, but you know, when you buy house on the side of the business areas, where people have businesses, there can happen anything. And you should try to be with people and try to be friendly with people to accept that these things would happen. Business has to keep running because they have to pay taxes and they have to live like we all have to live, okay, and make some money for living. He's a wonderful person so far, we know. He has neighbor right next to him. They have 2 small children, never complain, never for years, nobody. He has, you know, people cross the street, nobody never complain for over 4 years to us because it's the painting. The painting was always there. And there was no fence like they are now. Nobody complained. Nobody was, you know, causing trouble for all of us. So I don't understand, you know, why is now the trouble? He should know it's a business zone and it's business area where he lives. I know it's not very good, but it's not so bad. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It is lots of trees there, and there's lots of people live around. So I think I am maybe saying too much, but I want to tell you what I feel about it, because it hurt me too. You know, I don't want him be hurt, the one gentleman we're renting now from us, because he needs to make a living for himself. And like also, he needs to pay taxes, okay? So we need to practically be more together, and we don't want to hurt the small businesses. We need more small businesses in a town. We cannot hurt them. We're not the only one shop with painting in this town and in this area. People have to survive, and practically they do what they have to do, and they try the best they can do to survive and make some living for themselves and pay the bills like we all do. I don't know what to say else, but I think, excuse me, I'm a little nervous too, but I think I say whatever hurts me, because it does hurt me. No, it's just so much trouble about that, you know, area. I know. Thank you so much for listening to me.
All right, you're welcome.
If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I just want to tell you.
Thank you. You're
Okay?
entitled to your
Thank you.
opinion. Thank you. All right, yep, and then we'll kind of close it out, yep.
Yeah,
We still have a couple other things to do.
So when it was Henry's Sales and Service, there was no spray booth.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you right there.
We can't keep going back and forth.
I'm just saying, there
I'm
wasn't.
just gonna stop you right there. Is
Okay.
what the complaint that we have now is about this current business at this time. Really, what was in the past? It doesn't.
Well, can I just make one statement? If there was no spray booth in the past, and he was just spraying in his garage, right? When Mr. Frappia came in, and he put in a spray booth, that would trigger a building permit.
That's not
and
us,
whatnot.
but that isn't this department, so that we can't answer any. Unfortunately, I'd love to have those answers for you, but I don't. That's.
But
We're only
anybody,
dealing with this
I'd
site.
love both of you to drive by and
I
just
have.
look at
I
the
have several
facility
times.
and look where my house is.
I have several
The reason
times.
nobody else complains is because it directly blasts onto my house.
Just so you know,
Unfortunately.
when we get a complaint, I do. I drove by Leonard Ave. I have driven by.
So you understand how the elevation is affecting just me. It's like, it passes through my
Yeah,
house.
absolutely understand, but I think
Thank you.
we.
Thank you.
We heard, yep, it's time for us to move on.
Can I just give you the bottom line,
Yes,
Yeah. Oh, I have to make a motion.
please?
yes, we
Yeah.
do.
I'm gonna make a motion to uphold the cease and desist for RJ's Frappier Audio Body. That's what I'm gonna do. That's my motion.
I have a motion, and I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes. All right.
Thank
Next,
you.
moving on. You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
So the next surprising item on the agenda was a complaint for Leonard Avenue. And I see Adam here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. And I left my town phone on my desk by accident.
It's okay.
That's okay, no
It's okay.
worries.
It's okay.
About 2 weeks ago, Amanda started getting phone calls from a resident on Leonard Avenue complaining that Adam was violating the agreement that we made with the Board of Health. Every morning, I drive through town. I have a circuit that I drive to look at the the problem sites that I've had to deal with. I get to finish my breakfast while I do it. I noticed that Adam actually rented a business location on Quinnebog Road. I've noticed that his trucks are busy. He's doing better. His trucks have cars on them every time I see them. He's advertising for doing auto repairs and all these things at his location. And one neighbor on Leonard Avenue was upset that he's parking one commercial vehicle on Leonard Avenue. Now, when we had the discussion that night, we all agreed, and I think I stated that I drove a tow truck for 13 years, and I brought one home every night because the police would call at whatever time, and you had to go right out. And as I drive around on my route around town looking at things, I see so many commercial vehicles either parked in front of people's houses or parked in their driveways that it's not even funny. And we talked about the fact that one truck was not going to be a nuisance. Adam even went so far as to have his wife park her vehicle on the street, and you were backing your tow truck into the driveway.
Yeah, points. I mean, we
Yeah.
swap back and forth.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not always convenient. So I explained to the person that was calling that we had basically made a compromise and decided that one vehicle on the street was not a nuisance. It didn't rise to a violation of the nuisance ordinance under Chapter 111, Section 122. And this person's asking me why I changed my mind, and, I disagree, and I don't want this. And she said, it's going on, and I said, I'll tell you what, I will give you my cell phone number for the town, and next time you see something that's a violation, call me. 2 days later, at 6:15 a.m., I got a text message with old pictures of one truck, be it a ramp truck or a tow truck, parked in front of Adam's residence. And a whole big diatribe of how I'm not doing my job and all of this, and I don't know why you changed your mind. And I wrote back and said, look, I don't vote, I'm only the agent, I'm telling you that this is not a violation of 111, 122, but I will put it on the agenda, and you can come in and meet with the board, and you can talk to the board, because they vote, I don't. And that person came in and saw Amanda day before yesterday, and said, I can't come to the meeting because I fear for my life. And it's ridiculous, okay? And then I got a just, for lack of a better term, nasty text messages of how I'm not doing my job and all these things, and it's wrong. I mean, he's doing what we asked him to do, and he's actually become more successful by doing what we asked him to do, and that's a good outcome. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But
it cost me a little, but it wasn't easy.
But it's had a positive
Yeah,
impact on your
but
business.
that worked, you know.
But again, I'm reading on Facebook that, you know, I'm out to get them again, we're out to get people. We don't get people. We enforce the regulations that we're required to enforce.
No, I know.
No, I called them and said, look, Adam.
I was not
Adam-
happy with you the first time, but.
Yeah. But I said, Adam, you may not believe this, but we're actually sticking up for you,
Yeah.
and that's why it's on the agenda. And that's where we're at.
Yep.
So I would like the board to reconfirm
Yep.
that it's okay for him to park a vehicle, a commercial vehicle,
That is what.
with his name on it, with whatever.
That is what
It's
the
not a
motion
nuisance.
was, is that
Right.
he was allowed to park a vehicle there.
Yes.
He has, and I saw your location, your new location. He's done everything that we have asked
Yes.
in the timely manner that we asked.
Yes.
I mean, and he is allowed to park a vehicle there. It's not, and I've driven by as well, and I have seen it on occasion, you're not obstructing traffic, there's nothing.
There's no junk cars, there's
No,
none
so
of that
there,
stuff.
and you are doing exactly what the board
Ask you to do.
correct. So there is nothing further to be done against you. You know,
And-
nothing, we're very happy, you know.
And part of the complaint was that the minutes didn't reflect that one truck could be parked there, but the minutes are not an exact record of a
No.
meeting. So,
There's an exact YouTube video though, so.
Yes.
yes.
And if,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could go back and watch the meeting, and it'll clearly, she or he, I don't know the neighbor, could hear.
So I'm now being harassed at 6:15 in the morning on multiple days.
Yeah,
and,
you want to.
You got a taste of my medicine.
You should maybe
so I can make a
entertain
motion that Adam Essex, the location of, what's the number at Leonard Ave? I apologize.
3.
Two. 2 Leonard Ave is allowed to park a vehicle on the street.
And maybe we could have the Board of Health send a letter to the person who's complaining. That, document it, monument it.
Okay, so I'll
End of
make
story.
the motion that he is allowed to park on the street, a vehicle
Same thing.
is
Yep.
allowed to park on the street, and that we will send a letter to the person
complainant.
with a copy of the minutes expressing that this has been
There we go.
reiterated.
All right, so we have a motion, and I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes.
Thank you. And thank you for everything you did for us.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Good work.
Very much.
Had to turn around and figure it out somehow.
Yep.
And I'm glad you're doing well.
I hope RJ does too.
I
He will.
hope so. You
He
know,
will.
I never do we wanna, like I
Yeah.
told you, never ever do we wanna crush a business.
No, exactly.
And that's why I only wrote it for the spray booth.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're on well permits, right?
Well permits.
Okay.
Let's talk about well permits.
So, we get a lot of calls in the office for people looking for well records and well reports, especially Weston and Sampson as they're trying to unravel the PFAS situation on Eagle Drive and Bona Road and all of that. And we have terrible records of wells and all of these things. And I just bumped into a situation where we got the well report from the well driller, and I said, well, I need the water quality report. And she said, we were told not to test the well. The well driller's supposed to test the well.
Yeah.
Prior health agent wasn't making people test the well, I think, was what we talked about. Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Isn't it in our well regulations?
so I hadn't found your well regulation.
I can show
so
you
you
exactly
have-
where they are. There's a
Yeah.
big folder,
Yeah.
a big
But in-
binder.
But in cleaning up a little bit of this computer today, I found that back in February of 2023, Mass DEP sent out a model Board of Health regulation for private wells to upgrade requirements. There are some very good upgrades to this, and there are some just over the top, making people test their well every year for PFAS and do all these things that we don't want to do. But I think that the board should vote to look into revising our well regulation and updating it so that we specifically require that the well driller does the water test, and that the well driller sends in the well completion report within a specific amount of time. And that if there's no well completion report, there's no building permit.
I don't know. That's how it had been for years.
We're not getting them.
That's bizarre.
Yes. It just kind of fell off.
All right, so it was an original regulation that we had? Not even a regulation, a guide.
We have
Policy.
well-
A
we have-
policy,
We
thank
have
you.
well regulations.
But this was an original policy where you had.
Regulation. It's a well regulation.
It's a regulation.
So what are you,
Okay.
so the
This is a
person who's.
local regulation.
That
Correct.
it fell off the map somehow. We lost.
Somewhere, because they had been doing
Yep.
it all the time.
And if it's 15 years old or 20 years old,
It needs to
it's
be revamped.
outdated.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It would be something that, after the election, the new board would take up.
We should probably look into that moving forward for
So I would,
ongoing till July.
I would like you guys to make a motion that
All right.
that the Board of Health, moving forward, will look into revising the well regulation.
Okay.
So moved.
Passes.
No,
I have a-
that's
I have
my
a motion
motion,
and a
so-
second, okay. All right, so we will look into that.
We want to vote on it?
Yeah, let's go.
Want to vote?
Yes.
Oh,
Vote.
aye.
Oh, all in favor, sorry, aye.
Aye.
It's getting late, it's past my bedtime.
It's
All right.
early.
All right, moving on.
Title V inspections, this is one that really bugged me. So, once again, the misinformation that's out there, candidates night. One of the candidates accused me of being unlicensed to do Title V inspections. Absolutely, I am not licensed to do Title V inspections, but the Board of Health doesn't do Title V inspections. Title V inspectors do them as private parties. Some towns have the health agent witness Title V inspections. I did that at my former town where I worked. We witnessed them to prevent Title V people from maybe overselling new systems and things like that. So just want to get it on the record. We don't do Title V inspections, and I am not licensed to do that. So, that's that.
Perfect.
No
Makes it to
update on
Facebook.
food service inspections.
Dude, that's
No update on retail food inspections, but we do have an update that there has been another dog bite, and that was referred to the selectman's office. And this dog, nobody knew whose dog, nobody knew the dog's name, nobody knew if it was vaccinated. This is the kind of dog bite that's a serious dog bite.
Yeah.
And it was either a pit bull or a Rottweiler, it said, but there's a big difference in size.
Yeah, very true.
And that's it.
All right. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say?
No.
Any?
Do you want to say goodbye again?
Any
No,
further public
no,
comments?
'cause there's no possible way you can schedule another meeting between today and Monday.
Sure,
So-
Sunday, we can open special.
So the PFAS thing was important.
Lord's Day.
And his appeal of the
Yes.
cease and desist had to be heard.
Absolutely, within the
Within
timeframe.
3 days.
Absolutely. I
So that
completely
was the-
understand that.
Yeah.
That
that's
was the
fine.
reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
Further comments?
Hi, Monica Frank Hoffman, 59 Baker Pond Road. Pat, I just wanted to ask you, there was a lot of conversation about the PFAS stuff, and it got very detailed. So, what is the take home for me, average Joe citizen, in terms of how I want to get involved? Like, we talked about the 10-member board, we talked about, can you give me like a bulleted list of things I'm supposed to do?
So it's not a 10-member board.
Oh, sorry.
It just takes 10 people to request.
Thank you.
The public
Right.
the public process.
I guess I just want a takeaway. I want something that I can make sense of this, that I can do something.
The takeaway is that the public would want to be involved in that process. I mean, you're paying the taxes, you're picking up the expenses of being PRPs, potential responsible parties, when there may be others. And if I were a taxpayer in Dudley, I would be looking for every potential responsible party I could. And I even stopped and saw the owner of Webco and said, you know, you may have downgradient status now. Because I do really worry that fellow's gonna go out of business because he's been tagged with the entire Dave's Way thing. And following all of the EPA stuff and watching all of these videos, it's everywhere.
I think it's very scary for people, and, you know, it just, I think, makes me feel a little bit better if I can be involved in it and actually do something as having it, like, happen to me, so.
And having, you know, having the Board of Health keeping the information available on the webpage. It's a business I was in, I understand it fully. And it'll be very informative, and it could be 50 people if it wants to be 50 people. You just form a group. And if you decide to meet once a month, once a week, if there's a meeting at DEP, you have the right to go attend that meeting in person. If there's a Zoom meeting, you have the right to attend that meeting. They can't do anything without that group being involved in it. And I think that's important at this time.
Okay, so the information is going to be up on the website next week? Monday. Okay, so that'll be great. And then, no, I'll just hold my last question. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Hold it.
Thanks,
Oh,
Jen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. No further questions out there?
Do you want to remind people of the bike rodeo?
Yeah, I will. I just want to make sure these two gents did. No, I could keep coming up. All right, so Ted, you be quiet. How about you? All right, so just to let the public know, June 27th is our bike rodeo. The selectmen approved. So it's 5 to 7 here at Town Hall. Boston Children's Hospital's coming. And I did reach out to Sergeant Poplawski, and he's going to reach out to the bicycle. I keep saying bicycle shop, and I get it wrong, so forgive me, Sergeant Poplawski, if you're listening.
Southbridge Bicycle.
Thank you. To see if they'll come, and what they do is they check the chains, the tires, the handlebars, everything for the kids, and then they move along the stations, and then they have some courses that they go through. We're gonna have some food. We're gonna have some music. We're gonna have Gentex is gonna be here with the table. They wanna set up a table because they make glasses, I think, safety glasses. So they wanna promote their business and their motto. And we're gonna have some handouts for the kids, water safety, sun safety, so some sunscreen, how to be safe in the water. We'll also have some handouts for the ticks and for mosquitoes. And we just hope that this year will be another good turnout like last time.
Don't forget the pizza.
Oh, yes, the pizza. We're not gonna have a
forget
contest,
the
but we're
food.
gonna have pizza, that the kids can have pizza and water, and we're always looking for volunteers, so if anyone wants to come, 5 o'clock, help us set up.
We'll be setting up about 4.
3 o'clock, I think,
Oh, yeah.
Sergeant Poplawski was talking about.
I thought I saw an email that Ted was willing to be Dudley.
Oh. So anyone that wants to come, it's open to any town, not just Dudley.
That's correct.
So,
And there's bike helmets.
Yes.
yep, Children's
yes.
is coming with bike.
Children's.
There's a gentleman named Zach Canoyer.
Oh, and we will be at the Strawberry Festival.
The week prior.
The week prior, just kind of promoting it again. It seems like that really helped last year. So, that's really all about the bike rodeo.
Yeah, can we throw out one other thing that the town is doing?
Go.
The town is having its first annual
Yes.
townwide yard sale on June 22nd. It's Saturday, and you can sign up. They put it on I know you can sign up through Facebook, but I believe they also put it on the town website, so you can sign up to be a participant. There'll be maps that'll be for sale at the Dudley Town Hall that morning, and they'll have all the locations if you register, and we're hoping to make it an annual event on the Recreation Committee. A lot of the other towns do it with great success and a lot of fun, and it gets people in our town and gets to see what we have for our town. So just throw that out there too. So register, come.
Sounds good. All right. Entertain a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn for the last time.
Are you sure? All right, so
Ever.
meeting adjourned at 7:38.